So the first person today is Liz Kavanagh from Treglown.
Thank you very much, Richard, for that introduction. To introduce myself, I'm Elizabeth Kavanagh. I'm head of HR for Treglown. We're an architecture practice. And I think, as Richard started, I should start off by declaring my interest in BIM. My interest in BIM started a number of years ago because I organise and deal with the training and development of Revit, the software that we use, and BIM within a large multidisciplinary practice. So my interest in BIM started to develop really when I attended a Revit appreciation course. I thought if we're training this, I should really appreciate it. And at that moment, I really had the epiphany that I hope some of you will have today, the aha moment which talks about the potential of BIM to really revolutionise the industry. So being from an HR background, my real aha moment is to the extent to which this is about collaboration and the possibilities that offers the industry in terms of the change and the culture change in the ways that we work and the team working implied. So the presentation I'm going to do will focus essentially on a very broad overview, and then I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how we've done this. Obviously, in this established architecture practice, as Richard's alluding to, we've come through numerous iterations, and the difference here is in between the medium and the message. I think Richard makes an important point there. In terms of the medium, people talk interchangeably about Revit and BIM, and I think the real aha moment for me in doing a Revit appreciation course was that actually this isn't about software. Software is the tool, and BIM is what it enables. So just to go right from sort of basic principles, building information management or building information modelling, it really is up to you how you wish to define it. There's lots of different approaches. What's really nice about the different presentations we're going to have today, I think, is that we're all coming at this from very different perspectives, and it is for you to decide your definitions of what BIM is for you and how it's going to work for you. So BIM for us in its simplest form is virtual construction. BIM is to build virtually before building physically. From a client's perspective, you can see immediately that offers the potential for much more efficient design and construction and a way of eliminating uncertainty. So it is de-risking before construction. And in a recession, you can particularly see why that is pushed further forwards. The use of BIM, actually the implication of this is that it starts to talk about the whole process as being very integrated and joined together. So it starts to unpick our assumptions, firstly about silos, and silos to do with the roles that we undertake within the profession, and secondly also to do with the stage and the phased approach that we tend to take to construction. So it unites the design, the construction phase, and it includes facilities management. So it starts to talk about this whole life cycle, and that offers massive potential. In terms of easing project delivery, safety of the project, enabling pre-assembly, minimising waste. So this is a very sustainable, potentially, way of working. Of course, with anything new that comes into the industry, I think it's important to have a sort of right level of expectation about what it is and what it isn't. This certainly isn't magic. It isn't 2D information, so that means unpicking our assumptions about why we are producing what we are producing. This is very much more of a 3D mindset and mentality. The Escher diagrams illustrate really that you can't draw something you can't build. This does focus us on buildability and usability. It's certainly not a cure-all, and at its essence, building information model creates for us a model, a management system, which is a proper database, meaning that with any database, the limitation is garbage in, garbage out. So it is still, the user is all-powerful. The database is intelligent in that rather than now drawing a line which represents a wall, we are creating a wall, we are creating window sets within those walls, and therefore it is much more intelligent in the way it applies data. But the intelligence is still coming from us, from the users. And as with anything, of course, BIM is not a manager of people or a manager of your team. You will need to be very, very careful about the briefing side of things, because two white cars, if your briefing is not more in depth than that, you will still get very different outcomes. And part of the implication of BIM and using BIM is the importance of that briefing process comes to the fore. Okay, so there's a lot being talked about in terms of why we would be interested in BIM. And there's two really good industry level reports out there that I recommend you read. The MBS have done some research saying 67% of those currently using BIM and those 29% of those aware of BIM believe that clients will insist on us using this. And we certainly believe that. And also a slightly lesser percentage believe that contractors will insist on us using BIM for all of the reasons that we've outlined. And really the way to think about that is there's a different level to which a person can use BIM. I'm going to highlight and talk about that later because really there is a lot of BIM wash out there, a lot of people talking about it without necessarily understanding in depth what level they are at, what level the industry is at. And because this is a collaborative tool, it is of vital importance to know not just where you're coming from, but from which perspective others in your team are coming. So of course I think all of us will probably be aware that the government really are pushing this. We obviously are going to listen to that, bearing in mind 40 pence in the pound is apparently coming from the government in construction. So their interest in BIM is absolutely about cost. They reckon that they're going to get 20% cost savings for this. They believe that all appropriate projects, I'm not sure what that will mean, will be in a 3D collaborative environment by 2016, which means we're all starting in anger now. Of course, the flip side of what the NBS report is saying is that there are a group of people who are the heads down ostrich mentality, meaning that their strategy for dealing with BIM is to get through the recession and hope it goes away. I think, as Richard's alluded, this really isn't going away, and this is being forced. The pace is being forced really by the recession as well. So, in terms of the key benefits of BIM, trying to think about those in terms of a very broad summary. Essentially, one central database means that all the information available is shared and is outputted in different formats. So it isn't just producing schedules, it is producing some quite graphic information. And I'll give you just a quick sample of that, and then Graham's going to go on and give you more case studies. There are massive coordination benefits, and this 20% cost saving has to come really from the fact that we are not drawing and redrawing. We are not drawing and redrawing ourselves, and we're not doing it in silos. As it says, that when you're entering data, it's used for multiple purposes. Nothing is wasted, and the automatic clash detection is close on genius in that it allows you to resolve things very, very quickly up front, and it avoids those scenarios where you have long email chains between team members trying to just flag that an issue exists. This is really, really helpful in dealing with things in a live and very collaborative way, because you can see exactly where clashes exist. This also offers the potential to be 4D, so to work with time and cost. And some parts of the industry are already starting to do that and see the benefits of it. So in terms of our history, Strides are, for those of you who are not aware, a large multidisciplinary practice. We've actually been using Revit for over a decade. I'm differentiating between Revit and BIM. We've been embracing the culture change implied, and the way that we've been doing that is quite emergent. So that means that we have been trialling this. We've been giving the software to enthusiasts, making it work on projects where we know we've got a team and a client who have got this interest. And from that, learning the lessons. We have now reached that tipping point, I think, where the industry as a whole is showing its readiness for this. So 75% of us are using this Revit software. We are one of the top 5 architectural license holders, and our boast is that we are in many cases now using level 2 and level 2 plus BIM. I'll get on and just give you a brief overview of what that is. There's various different versions of the levels of BIM, but I think at the time that you're talking to others and networking with them and talking about how they're using BIM, to understand those levels is really helpful. We have undoubtedly found that this is a massive catalyst for increased efficiency. So those people who started as BIM doubters it's got a reputation for being Marmite, you love it or you hate it. Those people who've started as doubters are often the well converted. So if they start as haters and come across to it, then they're very much going to champion BIM and the use of Revit within project groups. And I would say that to do that convincing work with individuals and teams is really massively helpful in making that culture change. It is winning hearts and minds to try to get people on board. So I hope through the course of today that each one of you might see something in this that you think you can make work for you. Some of the things that we've done in order to make this work and make it efficient. So for example, we believe that we can now cut down the length of time it takes to produce quite significantly and do production programs that we could not have thought of beforehand. That's quite significant in terms of what we're able to achieve with this. In order to do that, we've had to very quickly get agreed templates, keynoting, and an internal project reviewing system which is aimed to continuously learn. So the way that we do that, as an example, is that we have structured training courses to get people up to speed with initially the overview, the geometry, the core principles of Revit. And what's really helpful in getting them to a really capable level is to continually focus on how they're applying that within a project-based setting. So using mentoring, using champions for perhaps different ways of using the software, by which I mean we have champions within, let's say, the residential sector, as well as champions within each studio, so that you've always got someone to go to. So we find that really the learning that you do through this is quite organic. It is very project focused, and the more that you can encourage that, the faster the uptake. So I referred to stages of BIM. This version of the stages of BIM is based on an Exitech model. There is also a really good standard within the RIBA overlay, which is a really good way of looking at things also. There is a lot of jargon, a lot of acronyms in it. I will try to describe it in its most basic form. So, as I said, there's lots of people claiming that they are using BIM. At what level are they using BIM? So stage one would be object-based modelling. That is to say, as it indicates on the left, each party has a 3D model, and that's it. It's called Lonely BIM by the RBA. As you can see, it doesn't imply much by way of collaboration. Okay. Moving forwards, you then have model-based collaboration, and this is where you're starting to think slightly differently, and your workflow is changed by using the 3D modelling to work more collaboratively with each other. There are still sort of a silo mentality in there, in that you're planning handover phases still and exchanging models on key dates. And then we have the aim of BIM. When people are talking about our aspiration for BIM, they're more than likely talking about this integrated practice, which sounds a lot like chaos, because it's all working on a model and a set of information simultaneously. Can you imagine? It sounds interesting. The way of splitting down BIM phase 2 is interesting. There is model-based collaboration can start by having internal collaboration, and then it's built up, according to the RIBA, by having other forms of collaboration, so introducing other consultants to the mix, introducing contractors, and introducing clients. So as you're getting further towards BIM stage 3, you're involving more and more parties in this. That, for me, is where it starts to get really exciting. So this is just a little insight into the world that we are coming from and where we're going to. On the left, you have a very polite-looking English street. We're all working in silos, politely behaving as neighbours do, waving hello in the morning and not more than that. In Revit world, and I'm talking about when we get to full integration, you have this idea of sheer chaos, us all working simultaneously. So what's stopping us from getting to level 3 in integrated practice? It's going to be each other, and because it is reliant on collaboration, it means that the next tipping point, the point at which we start to move from BIM level 2 onwards, will happen once the whole industry is ready and we all have developed our skills. So it's going to happen over the course of time. To give you an example, and I know Graham is going to get on and talk to you an awful lot about where this is happening. This is, this chap Lee Diggle is an ex-UB student, hence the choice. And his current project, he's talking about very enthusiastically and how he's working in it in a BIM context. So he's working on a project where for the first time they have 3 major disciplines working in 3D CAD software. So he's calling this level 2 BIM. So the architectural model structure and the M&E model, they are linked and they build up a picture of the complete building from the outside, which can then be interrogated. And you can see the potential of this. Really the way that he's made that work is that they have sat down as a team and gone through the clashes. So clash detection has been thoroughly gone through, and that has massively shortcutted the length of time it's taken to resolve these issues. And it's just good team working. So very exciting stuff. Okay, so this is just the one example, but how did we get there? The misunderstood CAD manager cartoon really is just a caveat to say that actually we do need to make sure that those people who've been trained in a certain mindset are questioning their own assumptions and starting to think in real depth about not just the software and how it works, because this is a tool for communication. And getting people to think about what they're trying to achieve is really how we're all going to get the benefits from this. So I think the first thing to say, if I could share any words of wisdom with you, would be really be very clear about why we're doing this. We all like to wear our comfortable slippers rather than to force change. And I would just forewarn you that training is about 10% of the effort here. Actually getting people to know how to use the software side of things is only part of the journey, and I think there's a lot more work to be done, and the next phase will come in talking to us, collaborating with each other to learn how to collaborate, essentially, to learn the skills of collaboration to make that work. Other tip, obviously, budget for training. As I mentioned, having a training strategy that is practical, where you can make sure that someone has a project in mind and is working live on BIM, as terrifying as that feels, because they feel like their project is the sacrificial lamb on the altar of BIM. Actually, that is the way to do this. Taking the brave step and doing training just in time. It's like learning a language before you go on holiday. If you learn Italian 2 months beforehand, you can order 2 beers capably, but you really need to be doing this 2 weeks before you go on holiday. So it is a language, it is the same principle. I would say making sure that you're training just in time. Would say one of the things that we have as an advantage as Strides is that we can train groups and make sure that we're going through this journey together. And whether we as an industry will start to learn more from each other, I think we possibly will, and that will be, I think that is the way forwards. In terms of maintaining teams and individuals, continuity on projects and seeing projects through is obviously efficient in any case, but particularly when you're trying to get to grips with new ways of working, that is absolutely essential. So the resourcing difficulties that you can experience with projects, actually the continuity is really important. Would say that success breeds success, as I say. Some of those people who have been dead against learning this software, and we've had people climb under desks and refuse to move for the sake of learning this stuff, have actually been those who stand and champion and fight hardest for it and defend it as a methodology. So I think the other thing about BIM, as I said, is that this wider industry discussion that we're having today, that we're going to have through the World Cafe, is absolutely how we're all going to continually learn. So I encourage you to be doing more of that. So also wanted to go through and fess up and say that it is possible to make mistakes when you're going through this. I think the warning is that within a project, you will need a BIM strategy just on that project level. And when training and going through the transition from 2D and into 3D and towards BIM, you are at risk of having a two-tier office. So this is why I think sharing the information as widely as you can, having champions and mentors is ideal. That's worked very well for us. And I think it's key to make sure that we're not doing it because we can. We need to work out why, and why from our own perspectives are we doing this. Each one of us is going to have a different reason for adopting it. And really, once you've got your head around that, it will show its benefits for you. Creating templates is absolutely essential, so that's one of the key principles of efficiencies. And likewise, giving access to families. By families, we mean essentially groups of objects. So that's key in efficiency. In terms of too many cooks, you will find, as you go through and talk to many others about BIM, everyone has their own BIM story, their own BIM perspective, and once they know something, they're very keen to share it. It's a new industry, it's very open to interpretation. You need to decide on your view, and having too many cooks, too many individuals within the organisation who feel they know BIM can be somewhat disruptive. So I think to make sure that you have a stance and a style and a way of dealing with BIM is key. And also don't give up. In making this transition, it does have its painful moments. People do tend to develop kind of a Revit Tourette's at the point that they're trying to make the thing do what they want it to do. So giving up and going back to the comfortable shoes of 2D and using AutoCAD, this is the point at which you lose all the efficiencies. To give you an example of a building that we've done in the not so distant, this is the Arts Building, University of Salford. This is 16,000 square foot. To give you an idea, really, just of the kind of quality of images that we come out with, this isn't just for schedules, this is for producing relatively impressive graphics as well. Okay, so the NBS research also talks to people about why this has been of benefit to them. And as I hope you've seen from the previous image, actually BIM improves the visualization, improves productivity, coordination of construction documents, which I think is the obvious kind of benefit of this, and delivery speed. Although not all of us agreeing at that, and I think that's possibly because we're still going through the pain barrier and making it work. But it is worth noting that to get these gains, 90% of people have had to change workflow practices and procedure. And adopting BIM isn't just a matter of buying some software. So that's the key kind of message from today. And I'm hoping that each of you will have had a chance to look at some of the benefits that we found, and something in there has twigged an interest in you and maybe given you some enthusiasm for BIM.